Those of you who had access to a television and watched the spectacle of the last hour and a half must be furious, absolutely furious. Those of you who care about this country and the Constitution and the franchise. The House of Representatives didn't do a damn thing. The Democrats did it all on their own. They control the House of Representatives. And they use the moniker of the House. But the fact is, what the Democrats did today and yesterday and the day before is on them. And the scarlet letter impeachment will be on their foreheads, not on the president's. The president continues to be the target of the Democrat Party press and the Democrat Party. He continues to be the target of Washington, D.C., and the elites in Manhattan. This president has complied with every court order. He's complied with every constitutional provision. He's complied with every statute and every rule and every regulation. And they can't point to any that he has violated. They make allegations. They're filled with platitudes. Russia, campaign violations, his lawyers, his businesses, his family, and now this. Now I have a question. If the United States Senate is going to call witnesses, if the United States Senate is going to conduct evidentiary inquiries, then what exactly is the point of the House of Representatives' role in impeachment? If the Senate is going to do investigations and have hearings, in effect, witnesses, and receive additional evidence from the House or any other source for that matter, then what is the point of an impeachment inquiry in the House of Representatives? There is none. Now, do you think the framers were so stupid that they would build into the Constitution that both bodies of the House of Representatives and the Senate would conduct evidentiary investigations and call witnesses? Of course not. We're not required to follow the insanity and the political hackery of the Democrat Party and their media mouthpieces. We get to think like rational human beings and patriotic Americans. The Republicans in the House of Representatives were not permitted to call witnesses. The president, the target of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, was not permitted to call witnesses or to present evidence. The whistleblower, so-called, who was said to have instigated all this, his name wasn't even permitted to be uttered in the United States House of Representatives or by the vast majority of the media. And he was not called as a witness because he would expose the cabal and the silent coup that was taking place. John Bolton, such a crucial witness, they tell us, but they didn't pursue him. They moved on without him. Instead, we had a bunch of bureaucrats from the State Department and other places testifying about their opinions. There's no first-hand evidence of wrongdoing because there's no wrongdoing. But the Senate, the Democrats tell us, if they're to hold an impartial trial, must call John Bolton, must call 3 other witnesses demanded by the Democrats in the Senate, who were not called by the Democrats in the House. So the Republicans must call the witnesses that the Democrats demand in the Senate, in the minority, But when they're in the majority and they had iron-fisted control in the House, they didn't call the witnesses. Moreover, the Republicans in the Senate are being told they must not call Hunter Biden and Adam Schiff et al. They can't call them, they're being told. But there has to be impartial justice, folks. Impartial justice. There was no due process by the Democrat majority in the House that's been afforded the previous presidents who have faced impeachment, or judges who have faced impeachment under similar circumstances. This president was denied it. The only target of a House impeachment who's ever been denied due process. Then they're in a hurry. We got to get this done. We were told over and over again, we can't trust Trump with national security. We can't trust him in the next election. Hurry up, vote. Hurry up, vote. Then they vote. Then they do the rope-a-dope. Slow motion. For almost a month. For almost a month. They sit on the articles of impeachment. Because the Democrats in the House are trying to blackmail the Republicans in the Senate. The two articles of impeachment, obstruction of Congress and abuse of power, are unconstitutional. Just as the framers of the Constitution in Philadelphia rejected maladministration, Madison and others made the point, you can't try to remove a president based on maladministration. Then the President of the United States will have no independent power. He'll be answerable to the House and the Senate. They're not a parliament. We have separation of powers. And so the precedent has now been set that you can impeach a President of the United States if he dares to go to court and challenge the authority of another branch of government that subpoenas, wildly, recklessly subpoenas his staff, his records, and so forth and so on. That in and of itself, seeking judicial review, is now an impeachable offense. Obstruction of Congress. And abuse of power is even weaker. Because they have nothing. Nothing. They're in a hurry. They're not in a hurry. Then we hear this. This is a political process. Except when it's not a political process. It's supposed to be impartial justice. Well, which is it? Is it a political process, which we know does not provide for impartial justice? Or is it impartial justice? Which is it? And what happened in the House with the Democrats? Was that impartial justice? There's not a terrorist that attacked us on 9/11 that would get the treatment in a courtroom that the President of the United States has received in the House of Representatives by the Democrats. That's how abominable and unconscionable this entire process has been. So what's the role of the Senate? Is it a political process, or must they do impartial justice? And must they accept new evidence, quote unquote, evidence, even the media? We have new evidence. Evidence? What makes it evidence? It hasn't even been vetted. It hasn't even been challenged, but it's evidence. Oh, we have new evidence from an indicted Ukrainian who's looking for a deal in the Southern District of New York but can't seem to find one. So evidence comes over the transom at the 11th hour that the Senate must use, in addition to witnesses, because we want to repeat what took place in the House of Representatives, don't you know? New evidence. Media calls it evidence. It's neither a political process, ladies and gentlemen, even though it's motivated by politics. And it's not a criminal or a civil courtroom process. It is a uniquely constitutionally stated process. It's the Constitution, not politics, not criminal or civil courtrooms, that we look to. And what does the Constitution compel in a case like this? What does the Constitution compel? Well, we know a little bit about this. The reason the Senate has a role in this process is because there was significant debate over whether there should be impeachment at all, given the fact that a president is up for election every 4 years, given the fact that they wanted co-equal branches, and there was some grave concerns about an out-of-control House of Representatives. But there were also grave concerns about an out-of-control president. So the whole goal here was to keep people in their boxes. So what is the job of the Senate here? Now that the Republicans in the Senate control the trial process, not the arcane rules that were used during Clinton or this, the Republicans control the process 100%. They decide the rules. What should they do? What does the Constitution guide them to do? Let me ask you. Now that you know, and you've known, that they've been trying to remove this duly elected president from day one, Russia collusion, the Mueller investigation, the Southern District of New York, whistleblower, and all the rest. Now that you know the processes that were used in the House by the Democrats, the railroad job, the Soviet-style star chamber, cherry-picking witnesses, cherry-picking evidence, secret testimony in the basement of the House of Representatives, witnesses with no first-hand knowledge, witnesses without any material information, a harried vote, and then a slowed process. What do you think the Constitution compels the Republicans of the Senate to do in order to protect all the branches of government that are involved in this, in order to protect future presidents, in order to ensure that future houses do not conduct itself this way under this Democrat majority? What do you think the Constitution of the United States compels? It compels a dismissal. The reason the Senate is in this process is not to duplicate what the House did or to fill its gaps, to call witnesses, to gather evidence at the demand of the minority party in the Senate, which is the majority party in the House. The Senate is not a plaything of the Democrat National Committee or Nancy Pelosi or CNN and MSNBC and the rest of them. The Senate is its own institution. And for impeachment purposes, it was created to protect us from a rogue majority in the House of Representatives. That's why it has the role that it has. That's why the standard for removing a president is so high. 2/3 of the senators present. 2/3. Not a simple majority. It's a simple majority to impeach, not to remove. Chief Justice also plays a role. Minimal, but nonetheless. They wanted the entire body politic involved. All the branches. What do you think the framers of the Constitution would say? Just go ahead with the trial? Call the witnesses the Democrats insist on? Take new evidence that comes with a transom at the 11th hour? Do what Nancy Pelosi says? Think that's what the framers of the Constitution would say, or would they say, Senate, you need to fix this. You don't fix this by having a typical trial. You don't fix this by calling witnesses. This is bigger than what the Democrats are trying to do to the president. This is about the Constitution. This is about the Republic. This is about whether we can survive into the future as a republic. This is about fixing what the House of Representatives did and protecting the office of the presidency and the right to judicial review by our courts. That's what this case is about now. Not about John Bolton. Not about this Ukrainian guy who was indicted. This is bigger than the articles of impeachment. It is bigger than the impeachment clause. The Senate has a responsibility to kill this and kill it now. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.